They say the road is freedom, but sometimes the road decides who never makes it home. Tonight, buckle up. These highway nightmares might just follow you long after you kill the engine. Story 1. The Endless Motorway. I was 24 when I learned that some roads don't take you anywhere. They keep you. It was supposed to be an easy drive. 130 miles down the M6 from Preston to Birmingham to see my girlfriend. I'd done it a dozen times, but this night was different. It was December, frost biting the signs, headlights carving tunnels through the black. I left late, around 11 p.m., because we'd argued over text about some nonsense. I'd thought surprising her in the middle of the night would fix it. Funny, isn't it? How stupidly brave love can make you. By midnight, I was cruising through Lancashire, no cars behind me, none ahead. Just my Ford Fiesta humming along to some old Arctic Monkeys playlist. I remember passing a sign for Knutsford services and thinking, I'll grab a Red Bull there, stay sharp. I never did find it. Instead, the motorway stretched, and stretched, and stretched. At first, it was subtle. I'd see the same sign for Brampton Bridge, 2 miles 3 times. I blamed fatigue. Kept going. Switched songs. Rolled the window down to gulp the icy air. But then I noticed something that iced my bones worse than the wind. Every car I passed was the same model. Same silver Honda Civic. Same dent on the rear bumper. Same driver, a man in a flat cap, eyes locked forward, never blinking. I overtook him 5 times in 20 minutes. I told myself, no, it's just your mind playing tricks, mate. I laughed out loud, a dry, jittery laugh that cracked in my throat. Then my phone vibrated, a text from my girlfriend. Where are you? I texted back with one hand on the wheel. 30 minutes away, X. But I knew I was lying. My petrol gauge dipped below a quarter. Knutsford should have been there 10 miles ago. I checked the sat-nav, a glitchy blue dot dancing in no man's land, the voice repeating, recalculating. Recalculating, in a warped, robotic tone. That's when the fog came. A rolling white blanket crawled over the tarmac, swallowing the tail lights of the Civic ahead of me. The yellow lane markers faded, replaced by a swirling nothingness. I slowed to 30, hazard lights on, hard in my mouth. My headlights pierced only a few feet ahead, revealing something in the fog. A shape. Human. Standing dead center in the slow lane. I swerved, tires screaming, my car fishtailing onto the hard shoulder. The figure didn't flinch. I slammed the brakes, breath ragged, throat raw. My Fiesta shuddered to a stop. When I looked back, it was gone. I should have turned around then. Found the nearest exit, called the police, my dad, anyone. But no. I was stubborn. Angry. Scared to admit that the road had won. So I kept driving. 5 minutes later, my petrol light blinked red. That Civic appeared again, this time crawling alongside me, window down. I glanced over. The driver was grinning. No teeth. Just black gums and an endless mouth. He raised a single finger and pointed ahead. Then he sped off into the fog, swallowed whole by the motorway's hungry mouth. I hit the accelerator, desperate for a sign, a station, a light, a miracle. Then, like a wish answered by a cruel god, I saw blue. The overhead signs flickered services, 1 mile. Relief flooded me so hard I laughed and nearly wept. The turnoff appeared like salvation. I pulled in, tires crunching gravel, and parked by the only pump lit under a flickering canopy. The place was empty. No attendant, no other cars. Just a vending machine buzzing near the door, offering stale sandwiches and a single can of Red Bull. I didn't care. I grabbed the Red Bull, left a tenner on the counter. As I cracked it open, I heard it, a tap 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 on my window. The Civic man, grinning. Up close, his face was wrong. Stretched too long, skin pale and wet like something that had been dredged from a pond. He mouthed words I couldn't hear, fogging up the glass with every breath. I threw the car in reverse. Slammed the pedal. Tires screamed. I didn't care. Back on the slip road, I shot onto the M6 like a bullet, the Red Bull rolling on the passenger floor. And then, there it was again. Services, 1 mile. Same sign. Same battered pump. Same vending machine. The nightmare looped, my fuel gauge mocking me. I was the moth. This road was my flame. By the 3rd loop, I knew. There was no exit. No dawn. Just me, the Civic, and the endless black vein of motorway pumping fear into my heart. I don't remember falling asleep. Maybe I crashed. Maybe I never woke up. Maybe the story is still playing out, night after night, in some ghostly lay-by off the M6 that devours the lost and the tired. People say they see my Fiesta sometimes, hazard lights blinking in the fog, drivers slumped over the wheel, a single can of Red Bull on the floor. If you ever see me, don't stop. Don't blink. And for the love of God, don't text your girlfriend at 1 a.m. that you're 30 minutes away. Because some roads don't take you anywhere. They keep you forever. Story 2. The Hitchhiker's Debt. I used to scoff at my granddad's road stories. He was a trucker back when CB radios were the iPhones of the motorways. He'd sit in his creaky recliner, pipe in one hand, telling me about the ghost truck that tailgated him through Cumbria or the spectral girl who flagged him down just before a landslide. I'd roll my eyes, half listening, half waiting for him to fall asleep so I could nick a $5 from his coat pocket for kebab money. Then last winter, I found out he hadn't been spinning yarns. Not even close. It was January. Ice storms battered Yorkshire like God was having a tantrum. I'd lost my job 3 weeks before, my car insurance had lapsed, but my mate Billy begged me to give him a lift to Newcastle for some shady business he swore was a quick in and out. Against every shred of common sense, I agreed. At midnight, we hit the A1 me, him, and a boot full of God knows what wrapped in bin liners. The sky was pitch black, the kind of darkness that eats headlights whole. Snow hissed against the windscreen in diagonal sheets. Billy fell asleep 20 minutes in, snoring like a chainsaw. Meanwhile, I was half hypnotized by the rhythm of the wipers, counting mile markers in my head to stay awake. That's when I saw her. At first, she looked like a dead tree by the roadside, a thin shape wrapped in a gray coat, hood pulled up, hand outstretched with a thumb that might as well have been carved from frost. I slowed down. No phone signal, -6 degrees. What was I supposed to do? Leave her to freeze? She didn't move when I rolled down the window. Just turned her head slowly, face hidden by her hood. I called out, "Need a lift?" She nodded once. Deliberate. Slow enough to make my guts tighten. She opened the back door herself and slipped in, no fuss, no snow trailing in with her. I checked the mirror. She just stared straight ahead, hands folded on her lap. I could barely see her eyes. Billy, half awake now, cracked one eye open. "Who's that?" "Hitchhiker," I said. "Mate, you mad?" He eyed the boot nervously, then shrugged and went back to snoring. Typical Billy. I tried to talk to her. Asked her name. Asked where she was going. Nothing. Just silence thick enough to feel in my throat. I focused on the road until a smell hit me. Rotten milk. Wet dog. Burnt hair. I gagged. Turned the heater off, cracked the window. Still there. I looked back at her again. She was smiling now. Her teeth were gray. Tiny icicles clung to the ends of her hair. Billy woke properly this time. "Oi, what's that stink?" The girl leaned forward so close her breath fogged the back of my seat. "You owe me a debt," she rasped, voice like wind scraping a grave. Billy screamed, a raw, childish scream. He grabbed the door handle. I swerved. He fell against the window, clawing at the lock. The girl giggled, a soft, broken giggle like a doll with a cracked voice box. Then she was gone. I mean gone. One blink, and the back seat was empty. My car was freezing, like an open freezer in an empty house. I slammed the brakes. Billy tumbled forward, hitting the dash. We sat there panting, snow swirling like ash around us. He looked at me with wide, animal eyes. "You idiot. Do you know what you picked up?" I didn't, but he did. Billy told me his nan used to say some hitchhikers were never alive. Their debt's given shape. If you stop, you accept the debt. If you refuse to pay it, you pay another way. Blood, breath, time. We didn't talk the rest of the way. Dropped him off at some warehouse near Biker. I drove back alone. The smell lingered the whole trip, sour and wrong. When I got home, there she was again. Not on the road, in my hallway. Same coat, same smile. Waiting by my stairs like she'd always lived there. I left. Never went back. My mom says the house stinks now, no matter how many candles she burns. She says sometimes she hears footsteps on the landing at 3 in the morning. Light, slow, patient. It's been a year. I don't drive anymore. I don't pick up hitchhikers. But the debt doesn't care. Every month, on the A1 near that same mile marker, a car swerves off the road. Sometimes they find the driver. Sometimes they don't. But they always smell it. If you're ever driving alone on a winter highway, keep your doors locked. Check your back seat. And if you see a girl with frost in her hair and no footprints in the snow, whatever you do, don't stop. Story 3. The Vanishing Convoy. Most people who hear this story think it's a load of nonsense, until they drive the old B road winding through the Pennines after sunset. Truckers call it the Phantom Mile. I wish I could laugh it off too, but I'm the only survivor from that convoy. It was autumn when we got the job. 4 lorries, all hauling telecom equipment from Manchester to Edinburgh overnight. Strict orders to stay together. No stopping. No radio chatter except for emergencies. The company claimed it was to avoid theft, but the older drivers whispered other reasons. Disappearances, lost time, and drivers who made it back empty-eyed and silent, never taking night routes again. I didn't believe any of it. I'd done that route solo before. No ghosts, just fog and sheep. We left the depot at 10:47 p.m. I was third in line. Lead truck was a bloke called Hughes, 40 years behind the wheel, chain smoker, voice like gravel dragged over tarmac. Behind him was Yusuf, quiet lad but reliable. Then me, then Big Paul at the back, who liked to blast punk rock loud enough to rattle the tail lights. By 1 a.m. we'd cleared the last town. No lights now, no houses, just black hills swallowing our beams. Fog crept up in patches, floating like tattered ghosts across the road. Hugh's voice crackled over the CB. Stay tight, lads. Fog's thick ahead. Nobody stops for anything. We all rogered that. I turned my music down to catch every hiss of the radio. An hour later, the fog hit us full force, thick enough to taste. My high beams made it worse, so I switched to low. Just a white wall ahead, tail lights of Yusuf's truck barely visible. Then, static on the CB. A voice, but not Hughes. Not Yusuf. Not Paul. Just a hiss, and words like drowning. Turn around, they're waiting. I grabbed the mic. What? Who is this? Silence. Then Hughes barked in. Ignore it. Keep your eyes front. I did, until Yusuf's tail lights blinked out. 1 second there, next second gone, like they'd been pinched out by the fog. I called him. Nothing. Called Hughes. He said Yusuf was still on the GPS. 30 yards ahead, but no visual. Then Hughes' voice cracked again. Brake check. Something's wrong. I hit the brakes hard. My rig shuddered, the cargo straps groaned. I saw Hughes' truck at a dead stop up ahead, hazard lights blinking through the white. I radioed. No answer. Got out, stupidly, without a torch, boots crunching on frosted gravel. I found Hughes' cab door wide open. His seat was empty. Cigarettes still burning in the ashtray. Engine idling. No Hughes. I bolted back to my lorry. That's when I noticed Yusuf's truck. It was parked 50 feet down the verge, nose buried in a dry ditch. Cab door hanging open too. No Yusuf. Behind me, Paul's punk rock still thumped, too cheerful, too alive. I ran back, panting, radio in a death grip. I floored it. Screw the convoy. I was leaving. I told Paul on the CB. They're gone, mate. They're gone. We have to get out of here now. Static. Then his voice muffled like he was underwater. Too late too. A shape moved through my beams. Not a deer. Not a man. Tall, thin, and wrong. Almost like a shadow in smoke, with eyes that flickered like headlights seen through a storm. I swerved. Trailer fishtailed. I thought I'd roll it, but I kept it steady by sheer terror alone. The shape glided beside my window, matching my speed. I swear I heard it whisper my name. My name. I closed my eyes for half a second, stupid, but when I opened them, it was gone. I never saw Paul again. Or Hughes. Or Yusuf. Cops found the trucks abandoned, just where I said. Cab doors open, engines running. All 3 men missing. They questioned me for days, breath tests, drug tests, shrink tests. Nothing stuck. I left trucking after that. I do landscaping now. Trees don't whisper your name in the dark. But sometimes, late at night, I check dashcam videos from that stretch of road. People post weird clips. Tail lights that vanish in the fog, ghost convoys that follow too close and then disappear when you pull over. Sometimes you hear voices on the dash audio, always the same. Turn around, they're waiting. If you ever drive the Phantom Mile, keep your windows shut, your eyes front, and if you see another trucker waving you to stop, don't. Story 4. Mile marker 301. If you've ever taken the westbound M6 out of Birmingham after midnight, you might have heard whispers about mile marker 301. It's not on any map, not listed on traffic reports, but every long-haul driver knows about it. I never believed in haunted roads. Not until I spent a graveyard shift behind the wheel, with my sanity and life dangling by a thread. All because I ignored one simple rule. Never stop near 301. I'd been driving 10 hours straight, hauling refrigeration units to Glasgow. It was late February, the kind of brittle cold that makes your knuckles ache. I was loaded up on cheap coffee and dodgy service station sandwiches, barely keeping my eyelids open. Around 2:15 a.m., my GPS pinged, a detour due to an overturned lorry ahead. I cursed, checked the fuel gauge, and turned off onto a narrower bypass that snaked through scrubland and half-frozen bog. No cars, no lights, just a straight black ribbon cutting through white frost and bramble. That's when the sign appeared, a battered old milestone by the shoulder. Mile marker 301, spray-painted over with crude white letters. Keep driving. I snorted. Some prank by bored teens. I was more worried about falling asleep at the wheel than ghost stories. But 30 minutes later, I saw another sign, same marker, same graffiti. My stomach turned. GPS still claimed I was moving west. Speedo said 47 miles per hour. But I'd circled back somehow. I gripped the wheel tighter, forced my foot down. Engine roared. The frost-coated bushes zipped past, blurry shapes in the darkness. Another 15 minutes, the third marker. Same sign. Same words. Keep driving. I flicked on the radio for company. Static. Change channels, more static. My breath puffed in the cab, white mist swirling like ghost smoke. Then the road ahead shimmered. Not mirage shimmer, more like heat waves off tarmac in July, except this was February and my bones felt like icicles. In the shimmer, I saw people. A family. A man, a woman, 2 kids in pajamas, all barefoot in the freezing grass. They didn't wave. They just stood there, facing the road, eyes reflecting my headlights like deer. I slammed the brakes. My rig screeched, jackknifed a hair. I steadied it, gasping, knuckles bone white. The family didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stared. Then the father raised his hand, palm open like he was hailing a cab. His mouth shaped words I couldn't hear. I should have floored it. I didn't. I rolled the window down an inch. You all right? Need help? No answer, but his mouth kept moving. Over and over. Curiosity won over fear. I killed the engine, unbuckled, stepped out into the icy air. Each step closer, my boots sank in frost-matted grass. I got within 5 feet. Their eyes hollow. Wet pits of moving shadows. The father's mouth gaped wider. Then the kids spoke in unison, voice flat and tinny. Go back. Keep driving. Keep driving. Keep. I ran. Full pelt, slammed the cab door behind me, jammed the keys in so hard I snapped the ring off. I floored it. 40. 60. 80. I didn't care if I rolled the trailer into a ditch. I just needed out. Headlights behind me. 2 for 6 sets, popping on one by one all too close. Tailgating, high beams searing my mirrors. I swerved left, then right, praying they'd pass. They didn't. They stayed glued to my bumper for miles, impossibly close, like a convoy of shadows welded to my rear axle. Up ahead, I spotted it again. Mile marker 301. I screamed. Actually screamed. Then something clicked, something that made no sense but felt true. I jammed the rig into reverse. Not logical, not safe, but instinct said backward was out, forward was death. I reversed 50 yards. The high beams behind me flickered, sputtered like candles in a storm. Then darkness. Gone. No cars. No people. Just silence. Dawn broke as I hit the main motorway again. The sky pink and trembling with a weak sun. My GPS rebooted, now tracking normal. I limped into Glasgow 6 hours late, pale as a corpse. I quit trucking a month later, took a local courier job. Never leave the city, never touch the bypass. I still get texts from old mates who take that road. Hey, thought I saw you parked near mile 301. You all right? I never reply. Because if you stop at mile marker 301, you might never get back in gear. Story 5. The Man in the Hard Shoulder. When people ask me why I quit driving night shifts, I tell them about the man in the hard shoulder. Some say it's an urban legend whispered by taxi drivers and long-haul truckers. But I know what I saw. I know what followed me home. I'd been driving private hire for 6 years. Nights paid double, so I swallowed my fear of dodgy drunks and took bookings well past 3 a.m. One December night, I picked up a quiet fare from a village pub closing up near Derby. He was a local older bloke, smelled like stale beer and fire smoke. Paid cash up front, asked to be dropped at an old lay-by off the A38. Middle of nowhere, no lights, no reason for a sane person to stop. But he tipped well, so I shut up and drove. We chatted about football, weather, nothing special. But about a mile from the lay-by, he went dead silent. Just stared straight ahead, knuckles white on his lap. I asked if he was okay. No answer. Then he turned slowly and said, clear as a church bell, when you see him, don't stop. Whatever you do, don't stop. Before I could ask who he meant, he opened the door while we were still rolling, tumbled out, hit the frozen grass, scrambled on all fours into the black hedgerow. By the time I braked and reversed to help him, he was gone. I sat there, hazard lights blinking. My pulse thudded in my ears, fog blooming on the windows. That's when I saw him. At the edge of my high beams, on the hard shoulder, stood a man tall, dressed head to toe in dark work clothes like a motorway maintenance crew. Except, no crew works at that hour, and he wasn't wearing a high-vis vest. He faced away from me, one arm raised like he was hitchhiking or saluting invisible traffic. I remembered what the fare said. Don't stop. I put the cab in gear. Inched forward. Couldn't help glancing back. The man hadn't moved, but now his head was turned, chin over shoulder, staring right at me. His face looked melted, blurred, like old wax under a lamp. My breath caught. I floored it. Speed climbed 40, 50, 70. In the rear view, the man faded in my taillights. I let out a laugh, shaky, half mad. Relief swirled through me like warm whiskey. Then a tap. A soft tap on the rear passenger window behind my head. I glanced in the mirror. Nothing. Road empty, lights distant. Tap, 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 again. I swerved, nearly hit a fox. Swore, glanced back. And there he was, inside my cab. Sitting behind me, half visible in the dark. His skin sagged, dripping like warm candle drips. Where his eyes should be were black hollows. He didn't speak. Just stared at my reflection, mouth twitching like he was chewing words he'd never spit out. I couldn't pull over. Every cell in my body screamed, don't stop. So I drove. 20 miles. 30. I whispered prayers, begged him to vanish. But every time I blinked, his reflection swam back behind me. Finally, headlights appeared, another car, then the orange glow of a late-night service station. I yanked the wheel, skidded into the car park, hazard lights flashing like mad. I turned around, back seat empty. No imprint. No smell. No dripping man. I quit that night. Left the cab at my boss's driveway, keys on the dash. Slept 3 days straight. When I woke up, my mom said I'd been talking in my sleep. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Years later, I still get shivers driving that stretch of the A38, day or night. And if you ever see a man in dark work clothes on the hard shoulder, arm raised like he needs a lift, for the love of your own grave, don't stop. Story 6. The last call on Dead Man's Bypass. If you've ever driven the Dead Man's Bypass alone at midnight, you've probably seen the roadside memorials. Wilted flowers, flickering candles, crosses pounded into the grass by grieving hands. They say the road earned its name long before tarmac or headlights. A crooked stretch where even horse-drawn carriages tipped into the ditches for no reason. I used to think all that was superstition. Local color for bored students and bikers to swap ghost tales over cheap lager. Until the night I worked my uncle's roadside breakdown recovery truck. It was just after 1 a.m., late summer, the bypass slick with drizzle. I'd been dozing in the cab near a lay-by when the radio crackled to life. Recovery Unit 12, do you copy? Single vehicle breakdown, mile marker 41, black saloon, female driver. I rubbed my eyes, jotted it down, and pulled back onto the bypass. Even in the fog, I spotted her, hazard lights blinking weakly like a dying heartbeat. She was standing outside her car, arms folded against the cold. I could see tears glinting on her cheeks in my headlights. I hopped out, trying to sound calm and professional. Evening, love. Engine trouble. Battery dead. She didn't answer at first. Just looked past me at the forest pressing in behind the crash barrier. Then she whispered, he won't let me leave. I forced a smile. Thought she was spooked by a drunk ex, maybe hiding in the woods. So I popped the bonnet, did the usual checks. Everything looked fine, battery healthy, no loose belts, tank half full. But when I slid into the driver's seat to try starting it myself, I noticed the clock on the dash. 13.13. No car shows that time. The engine turned over easily, but the moment I flicked on the headlights, the radio blared static so loud I nearly burst an eardrum. Through the static, I swear I heard a man's voice. You're not taking her away. I shut the car off, heart rattling my ribs. She was staring at me now, eyes wide, shivering violently though the night was mild. "Do you want a lift back to town?" I asked, voice cracking. She shook her head. "He'll follow. He always does." Before I could respond, my radio in the truck crackled again. "Unit 12, status check." "Come in." "Status check." I sprinted back to the cab, slammed the door, grabbed the handset. "Control, I'm at mile marker 41. Vehicle's fine, but the driver's not. She says someone's after her." Silence. Then the radio hissed. Not the controller's voice, but that same man's whisper. "Don't take her. She's mine." I turned to look at her through the windscreen. She was no longer by the car. She stood at the edge of the trees, barefoot now, hair plastered to her face by mist. She lifted a hand, palm out like she was begging me to stay put. Then, headlights in my mirrors. Another black saloon, same make and model, rolled up silently behind mine. No engine hum, no tire crunch on gravel. The driver's window slid down. No one inside. Just darkness and the smell of rot drifting out. The girl backed toward it like she had no choice, eyes locked to mine. She mouthed something I couldn't hear, then got in. The door shut by itself. Both cars, hers and the new one, flicked their headlights on at the same time. Blinding. I shielded my eyes. When I looked again, they were gone. No tire marks. No taillights. Just empty road and my pounding heartbeat. Back at the yard, I filed my report. My uncle read it, sighed, and said, "Mile marker 41. That's the Hitchhiker's stretch. Should have called me first. She died there in '98. Her fella drove her off the bypass. Both died. Folks still see her, and him." I handed in my resignation the next morning. I drive trucks now. Long routes. But never Dead Man's Bypass. Not even at noon on a sunny day. And if you see a lone woman crying beside her black saloon, don't stop. Let her be with him. Forever. Story 7. The Phantom Truck of Route 27. They call it Route 27, a ribbon of roads stretching through the heart of the Peak District. It's quiet mostly. Sheep outnumber cars 10 to 1. But ask any lorry driver who's pulled the graveyard shift, and they'll all mutter the same warning. Watch your mirrors. He rides the center line. My name's Callum. Been driving haulage since I was 20. Night run suited me, less traffic, more pay, no boss breathing down my neck. In January 2017, I got a contract moving refrigerated goods between Manchester and a remote village north of Buxton. Easy miles, or so I thought. One Tuesday, I left the depot at 10 p.m. sharp. Frozen meats and dairy humming in the back, coffee flask at my side. I knew Route 27 like my own palm. 2 tight bends, a single lane stretch, then a half-mile straight that locals joked was cursed. First sign of trouble. My radio went dead outside Stockport. Nothing but static. No big deal. I had my playlist. But halfway up the first hill, my cab's heater died too. A cold so sharp it made my teeth ache rolled through the vents. Then I saw it. A pair of high beams behind me, weaving side to side like a drunk snake. I slowed, gave him space to pass, but the lights stayed in my mirrors. Closer. Closer. My taillights must have been kissing his bumper by then. I flipped my CB on to chew him out, still static. No plates on his grill. Just twin beams boring holes in my skull. I tapped the brakes, hoping he'd back off. He didn't. Instead, he rammed me. I swear my rig jumped sideways. 40 tons of frozen pies and milk, skidding like a shopping trolley. I wrestled the wheel, heart hammering, eyes darting to the mirrors. Nothing. No lights. No truck. Just empty darkness behind me. Shaking, I pulled over at the next lay-by, jumped out with my torch. My rear bumper was dented clean through steel. Scrape marks. Paint missing. But no sign of another truck, no tire prints in the frost. That should have been enough. I should have turned back. But stupid pride kept me rolling. About 10 miles on, my windscreen fogged up in seconds, thick and greasy. I flicked the wipers, smear after smear. Through the haze, the high beams returned. This time I heard it too. An engine roar, so close it drowned out my own. Like something growling under my trailer. I leaned forward, peering into the swirl of mist. And then, an air horn blasted. Deafening. My bones rattled. I swear to God I saw him then. For a blink. A huge Mack truck, 80s model maybe. Rust, dents, one headlight busted, cab windows blacked out. It tailgate so close I thought its grill would punch through my container doors. On instinct, I punched the accelerator, tearing up the hill faster than I ever dared. But at the peak, the road split, Left into the bypass tunnel, right onto an old viaduct. GPS said left. But something in my gut screamed right. I yanked the wheel. Tires squealed. The viaduct loomed, a narrow stone bridge barely wide enough for my lorry. I hit it doing 50. Wind howled through cracks in the parapet. The phantom truck behind me? Still there. Horn blaring, engine howling like a wounded animal. Halfway across, the bridge started to shake. I glanced in my mirror, stupid habit, and for a heartbeat, saw the cab up close, driver's seat empty. No one behind the wheel. Just a pair of skeletal hands gripping it. The bridge buckled. I swear it dipped an inch under my wheels. I floored it. With a bone-jarring clatter, my truck leapt the last meter onto tarmac. I swerved into a lay-by and jumped out, expecting to see the phantom slam through after me. But the viaduct behind me was empty. No truck. No roar. Just moonlight and the faint creak of old stone. Next morning, I limped the rig to a local garage. Mechanic took one look at my dented rear and went pale. He dragged me into his office and showed me a photo on the wall. A newspaper clipping, yellow with age. It was a Mack truck, the same rust-eaten beast. According to the headline, it jackknifed on that viaduct back in '83, killing the driver and sending 2 cars over the edge. Locals said the driver still haunted the route, looking for a way to finish his last delivery. The mechanic told me, "You took the viaduct. Smart. If you'd gone through the tunnel, he'd have pushed you clean into the wall. That's how he traps them. Easy cleanup for the crows." To this day, I avoid Route 27 if I can. But every once in a while, if I'm stuck on a back road, I check my mirrors. If you ever see a busted Mack with a missing headlight closing in at 70, don't slow down. Don't pull over. Don't look back. Pray it just passes through you. Story 8. The Hitcher on Hollow Ridge. If you've ever crossed Hollow Ridge at dusk, you've probably heard the legend. They say a man hitchhikes there every October, rain or shine. If you stop, he gives you directions to a shortcut. If you take it, you never come back. My name's Finn, and last year, I learned the hard way that some shortcuts lead straight to hell. It started normal enough. I was driving back from my nan's birthday in Wales, car stuffed with leftover cake and balloons tapping against the roof. It was late, about 11 p.m., and the A-roads were so empty it felt like I'd been swallowed by the countryside. I just crossed the Hollow Ridge sign when I spotted him. A figure on the hard shoulder, thumb out, soaking wet, suit and tie like he'd just left a funeral. I'm not stupid, or at least I wasn't. But guilt prickled me. He looked young, maybe my age, soaked to the bone. And my nan always said, never leave a soul out in the dark. So I pulled over. He slid into the passenger seat without a word. The smell hit first, like old water and cold stone. His hair was slicked back, face pale as milk, eyes so dark I thought they were bruised. "Thanks," he rasped, voice like sandpaper. "Heading north? There's a faster turn-off ahead. Local shortcut." Even then, something in me twitched. But I forced a smile, trying not to gag at the damp smell. "Yeah, sure, mate. No worries." I asked if he was all right, if he needed to call anyone. He just stared out the window, lips twitching like he was holding back a laugh. About 10 minutes in, the main road dipped into mist. He pointed to a break in the hedgerow, barely visible in my beams. "There. Right there. Take it." I hesitated. GPS showed nothing but black woods for miles. But he turned to me, smile so wide it cracked something inside my chest. "Don't worry, Finn. It's quicker." I didn't remember telling him my name. The turnoff swallowed my car in seconds. Trees pressed so close the branches screeched down the sides. My dashboard flickered. Phone died in my pocket. I tried to joke, said maybe I'd just stick to the main road. He didn't answer, just kept smiling. Then he whispered, soft as rain, "Faster, Finn. Faster." A shadow darted across the road. I braked hard, swerving, clipped something heavy. The car stalled. Silence dropped like a coffin lid. I turned to the passenger seat. Empty. Not just empty, dry. No wet seat. No footprints. Just the faint reek of mold and grave dirt. I stumbled out, heart pounding, flashlight trembling in my grip. Behind me, the mist rolled apart. And there he was, standing in the middle of the road, suit clean, face blank. "Why'd you stop, Finn?" he asked. The thing I'd hit lay half in the ditch. A deer, maybe. Or what used to be one. Its ribs stuck out like snapped umbrella spokes. Something else moved behind it. Hands, white and human, crawling in the blood. I ran. Back to the car, keys shaking so hard I nearly snapped them in the ignition. Engine wheezed, coughed, started. I floored it, branches scraping paint to ribbons. In the mirror, I caught one last glimpse, the hitcher standing on the broken deer, waving goodbye. When I hit the main road, a police car flagged me down. The officer tapped my window, torchlight bouncing off my pale face. "You all right? You look like death." I laughed, too loud, too cracked. "Just took a shortcut." "Bad idea." He nodded, leaned in close, whispered, like he was telling a joke to a mate. "Hollow Ridge. You're lucky. Some never come out. He likes company." Then he tipped his cap, and I swear, as his torch lit his face, for a split second, I saw the hitcher's eyes behind the badge. I never take shortcuts anymore. I don't pick up hitchhikers. And every October, I avoid Hollow Ridge like plague. If you see him, keep driving, no matter how guilty you feel. Because that shortcut, it cuts right through your soul. Story 9. The Voices Beneath Interstate 14. When the Department of Transport built Interstate 14 through the Pine Hollow Woods, the locals held their breath. For decades, that forest hid old secrets, bones, some said, of lost Civil War deserters. Others whispered about witches and shallow graves. But highways crave straight lines, and concrete doesn't care about ghosts. My name's Eliza Marrow. I haul timber overnight for Hollow Freight Company. I've driven every backroad from Texas to Louisiana. But the one stretch I swore I'd never touch after sundown was the mile marker 327 to 341 on I-14. That cursed mile didn't care. One winter night, it dragged me back anyway. It was a job too good to pass up. $2,000 in hazard pay to run 36 logs from our depot to a mill in Baton Rouge. The catch: no daylight delivery. The client needed the lumber by dawn, no excuses. I double-checked my rig. Chains tightened, straps snug, brakes whisper soft. My dashboard Jesus bobbled his plastic head at me. I kissed my St. Christopher medal for luck, turned the key, and rumbled into the freezing dark. First 60 miles were velvet smooth. Just my headlights carving tunnels through the frost. Then the sign appeared out of the fog. Next exit, Pine Hollow 3 miles. I felt my gut tighten like a locked safe. My hands trembled on the wheel. I knew the stories: phantom traffic jams, phantom screams under the asphalt. Some truckers swore the highway ran over a buried village that never forgave the concrete poured on its graves. Halfway through mile 329, my radio crackled. A voice soft as breath. "Eliza, Eliza." I smacked the dial. Static hissed. A new voice, male this time, deeper, dripping with honey and hate. "We're still here, girl. Slow down. See us." My foot found the accelerator instead. A cold wave swept through the cab, so cold my eyes watered. The windows misted on the inside, drawing swirls as if fingers traced runes in the fog. I flicked the heater on full blast. The vents coughed, then spat out air that smelled like wet earth and something coppery. That's when I heard them. Under the roar of my engine, a chorus of whispers. Dozens of voices, layered like rot on old wood. Some begged. Some laughed. Some screamed, high and shrill, rattling my fillings. They rose up through my seat, vibrating through my bones. I told myself it was highway rumble. Black ice. Overtired nerves. I cranked the gospel station. Nothing but shrieks on every frequency. Then I hit the bridge. Mile 334 boasts an overpass nobody loves. A single-span concrete arch that sits over swamp water black as spilled ink. As my headlights washed over it, I saw the road ripple. Not potholes, but waves like something huge breathing just below. Instinct screamed floor it. So I did. My trailer bucked. Chains rattled. Something underneath knocked so hard my teeth clacked together. A shadow, pale and naked, crawled across the lane ahead. I jerked the wheel, trailer fishtailing on slick concrete. In the rear view, more shapes rose from the water, dripping muck and whispering my name. I shot off the bridge doing 65. Brake lights flickered behind me. A truck. Another driver. I blinked back, tears, but there was nothing back there. Just the whispering. A lullaby for the doomed. Mile 336. My headlights cut through a low bank of mist hugging the tarmac. Shapes floated in it. A woman with no eyes, a boy dragging a sack twice his size, a priest whose mouth opened wider than his face should allow. They stepped aside just before my rig plowed through. The mist stuck to my windshield like glue. My wipers squealed, useless. Behind the glass, something pressed its hands against the fog, palms smeared red. I screamed, punching the dash, praying the glass would shatter just so I could breathe real air again. Then came the thumping. Under the trailer, like fists pounding from inside the logs. Each hit rattled my suspension. Wood doesn't knock, I told myself, but the thumps were rhythmic, like a plea. I flicked my trailer cam on the dash. Green night vision flickered, pixelated, then cleared. A girl crouched on top of my timber stack. Hair plastered to her skull, dress shredded. She looked straight into the camera, smiled, and mouthed something I couldn't hear but felt in my spine. Join us. I lost my mind for a second. Swerved onto the shoulder. Gravel screamed under my tires. The trailer swung wide, logs straining their chains. I saw the ditch yawning for me. The girl on the camera pressed her face to the lens until her eye filled the whole screen. Then it burst in static. I jerked the wheel back onto the road by sheer panic. Mile 340. 1 mile to salvation. The whispers crescendoed, voices chanting my name over and over, each syllable an icy nail in my brain. My trailer lurched. I swear I felt hands pushing it sideways, towards the swamp. Then, over it all, my radio flickered back to life. A new voice, warm and kind. My mother's voice, soft as a lullaby. Eliza, stop fighting. Let them take you home. But my mother's been dead 5 years. I punched the dash so hard my knuckles split. I screamed every prayer I knew, one after the other, a garbled mash of psalms and expletives. I jammed the pedal down, engine screaming like a cornered wolf. For the last mile, I didn't blink, didn't breathe. At mile 341, the voices cut out, mid-scream, like someone flipped a switch. The mist evaporated. My windshield cleared. The hum of the highway returned, innocent as Sunday. When I rolled into the mill yard at dawn, my trailer was soaked in dark streaks. No logs missing. No footprints. Just my own bloody handprints on the wheel. The mechanic refused to check the undercarriage. Said he didn't want to wake what's sleeping down there. They pay double now for any driver who runs that stretch after dusk. Some nights, I think about doing it again. Mortgage isn't cheap, after all. But when I hear the gospel static crackle at mile 327, I keep my eyes ahead and whisper, not tonight. Not ever again. Story 10. The Hitchhiker's Toll. They say every highway has one ghost hitchhiker story. But mile marker 119 on Route 47 doesn't have a ghost, it has the ghost. And it doesn't wait by the shoulder with a sad smile and a thumb out. No friend. It picks you. I'm Logan Sharp. Used to be a long-haul driver, 15 years without a single breakdown, citation, or scratch. Reputation as solid as the rigs I kept cleaner than my own flat. Then I made the mistake of doing a favor run for a buddy. Small company, understaffed, desperate to get a medical supply trailer from Chicago to Little Rock overnight. Triple rate if I didn't stop for anything. I should have known the money was cursed. By the time I hit Route 47, it was near 3 a.m. That hour when your eyelids weigh a metric ton, the road hums like a lullaby, and your brain starts playing tricks with the headlights. I passed the sign for mile 119 and felt an itch between my shoulders, like a spider crawling under my collar. I popped 2 caffeine pills, chased them with burnt truck stop coffee, and cranked classic rock until the speakers rattled. Didn't matter. I blinked just once, and there she was, dead center of my lane, a woman in a gray coat, hair plastered to her cheeks like wet ribbons. She didn't flinch, didn't run, just stared as my 18-wheeler thundered at her at 65. Instinct made me yank the wheel. The trailer screamed on its axles, fishtailed, but by some divine glitch in physics I missed her. Or so I thought. When the rig finally steadied, my breath burned my throat. I checked every mirror. Empty highway. But I felt it. The cab felt fuller. Like someone else was breathing just behind my seat. I laughed at myself. Paranoia, plain and simple. Drivers see weird things. But then the smell hit me. Roadkill. Old sweat. No. It was hospital bleach and rotting flowers. The smell of a funeral parlor after they mopped the embalming room. I flipped the cabin light on. Nothing in the jump seat. Nothing on the sleeper cot. But when I looked at the windshield, I saw her. Reflected perfectly in the glass. A woman, sitting cross-legged on my bed, dripping swamp water on the quilt. Her eyes glowed dull white in the cabin light. Her lips split into a grin wide enough to show the back of her throat. I spun in my seat, empty. Back at the glass. She was there, still staring, head tilting left, then right like a curious dog. I swore. Screamed into the dark. The radio crackled. Logan. 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 My name, over and over, layered in echoes that bounced around the cab. Then laughter, like a playground full of kids under a blood moon. I gunned it. 80 on a highway meant for 60. My GPS barked about speed limits, but I didn't care. I'd run that rig straight into a ravine if it meant shaking her. But ghosts don't care about speed. At mile 124, my headlights flickered, then cut out altogether. Black. My stomach crawled into my throat. I stomped the brakes, the trailer wailing behind me. The rig skidded sideways, tires shrieking, then silence. I should have jackknifed. Should have been dead. Instead, the cab just stopped. Smooth. As if I'd parked at a rest stop. The dashboard flickered back. The clock read 3:33 a.m. In the dead hush, I heard it. Pay the toll, Logan. My eyes snapped to the passenger seat. There she was, not a reflection this time. Real. Skin like candle wax, hair stuck to her face in damp ropes. She smelled worse now, meat left in a fridge after the power's been out a week. She lifted a pale hand, pointed at the glove box. I didn't move. Couldn't. Her voice pressed against my skull, whispering like she lived inside my sinuses. Pay. The toll. My shaking hand popped the glove box. Inside, my old Polaroid wallet. Tucked in the plastic sleeves were snapshots. My daughter Ellie's first Christmas, my wedding day, my mom's last birthday before the cancer. I knew what she wanted. Pick one. Her mouth didn't move, but I felt the words vibrating my molars. I'd heard trucker campfire tales about her. They said she was a harbinger. That if you didn't offer a memory, she'd take the whole truck, driver and all, drag it beneath the tarmac, feeding whatever nightmare nest seethes under mile 119. With tears burning my eyes, I flipped through my photos. Settled on one of Ellie and me, both wearing silly party hats, frosting on our noses. My heart snapped in half. I pressed the photo into her cold hand. She smiled, wide enough to show teeth so sharp they didn't look human. She faded, not vanishing, but sinking like water soaking into asphalt. The dashboard clock flipped to 3:34 a.m. My lights flickered back. Engine purred like nothing happened. The photo was gone. So was she. I delivered the load by dawn, signed the manifest with numb hands. The receiver joked I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I didn't laugh. 6 months later, Ellie asked me about the party with the cake and hats. She swore she didn't remember it. My wife too. No photos, no digital backups. Nothing but a hole in my head where that perfect day used to live. They say the hitchhiker on mile 119 still waits. She picks lonely drivers with memories sweeter than money. And when she crawls in, you'd better have something to offer. Otherwise, she'll take your future and your past and bury you under the blacktop forever.